Very warm welcome to everyone. Our topic today is living with lightness, and I think somehow the whole image of lightness is something that probably we're all attracted to. Do you have a particular image of lightness that you enjoy the most? That whenever you think of that, you also feel light. Is there anything that comes to your mind, that you'd like to share now? Maybe just as as an immediate thought. One image that, as soon as you think of that, a petal. That's beautiful. Wow. Thank you, Licia. So a petal. Yes. It has that beauty and the lightness and the delicacy, the flame of a candle. Beautiful. Yeah. Yes.
The morning.
The morning time.
When the sun is rising, it's beautiful. Beautiful. Yes. Feel the warmth of the sun and the light. It's beautiful.
Yes. Yes. And it's also connected with the vibrations in some way, isn't it? Gold flakes and raindrops. Wow. That gold flakes, yeah, wow. Don't think I've seen gold flakes, but raindrops, yes. And maybe do you mean like glitter? No. But what, see?
Hi, Radha. Whenever I'm meditating, whenever I want to feel happy, I imagine these golden flakes just coming down from the universe and filling my body. So it's like glitter, yeah, like glitter, yeah. And they're like little, they just fill my body. So when I think of light, I think of gold flakes.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. Nice, eh? Really, just thinking about that brings a sense of lightness, no? And the image that comes to my mind is that the experience actually of flying, but it was the experience of going in one of these, what do they call now? Paragliders, that's right, which basically there's no motor or anything. It's just like one big, it's not a parachute, but it's a kind of a big sail. And you just jump off the cliff and you fly, however. And of course, there was the expert who was doing everything. I was a passenger. But just that experience on a physical sensation of being weightless, and the wonder of literally flying, the sense of lightness. And of course, interestingly, that this can happen sometimes in meditation. Is when, I don't know if you've experienced, where your body, you kind of feel in a sense bodiless, almost like weightless, and maybe your eyes are open, but it's like the body doesn't, you can almost not feel the body anymore. No, that it's so still, and it's become somehow, the vibration is as if it's transparent, as if you could put your hand through the body. And so, yes, there's that on a subtle level, there's that kind of sensation, which is more than a sensation. It's a state, it's a condition. So on a practical level, on the level of our day-to-day interactions, of how we feel about ourselves as we make our choices, as we do things, what does lightness mean from that point of view? And so, yes, another image, very beautiful, Eric, is of a feather. Yes. And so I was thinking that, as it's interesting and maybe one of the easiest ways of understanding a subject is to see the opposite. And so I was thinking, well, what is the opposite of lightness? And one obvious one is heaviness. Another one that I hadn't thought of is dryness. So when something is dry, is boring, is stale, old. And yes, depression. And in fact, the third one that I thought of was as the opposite of lightness is obscure, which is like depression, a nightmare, yes, in fact. And then also, as Wansi Singh may be referring to lightness is breathing, taking a deep breath, yes. And so it's easy to actually end up living in those kind of conditions, under the sort of maybe even a low level and sort of just a background heaviness or dryness, not quite boredom, but just like, it's kind of everything's the same, and just that little bit of where the lights kind of got a bit dim, and so the darkness or the obscurity has grown, maybe little by little, slowly, without us even realizing it. And sometimes this can take the form of being dissatisfied, and you don't know what you're dissatisfied with. And sometimes you think, well, I'm dissatisfied with myself and with how I am, who I am, what my life has been. And often that will then take on the form of complaining and blaming. And all of this is pretty heavy in terms of words and behavior. And and of course, these conditions of being heavy, being dry, being obscure or depressed will bring up, heaviness will bring tiredness. Because if you're dragging yourself around, dragging a heavy heart, a heavy mind, it's very tiring, very exhausting. And then, of course, dryness will bring boredom, basically. And that sense of obscure, feeling like there's a lot in the dark that you don't know, brings a lot of fear. And all of these are states and conditions that are very, very far away from really who we are, from our true form of being light. And see how easy it was right at the beginning, to think of, and not just to think of, but to immediately feel the sense of lightness. How long did it take you? A moment, maybe hardly a few seconds, maybe not even seconds, but to immediately come up with an image, beautiful images and of lightness. And so this tells me just how natural it is actually for us as beings to live with lightness rather than to live with its opposite. And so, I thought of a few things that have helped me to, in a sense, choose to live with lightness rather than choosing to live with its opposite, which is again fear or boredom or heaviness. And I remember feeling for a long time just how heaviness was kind of a shadow that was following me around, feeling heavy about, or that I didn't do something very well, or I'm not good at this, or I should have done that better. That sense of dissatisfaction with the self, and expressing that to others often creates an atmosphere of heaviness, and often the dissatisfaction about the self very easily generates a dissatisfaction of others, because maybe we project it onto others. So people don't live up to my standards, or they don't do things how I think they should be doing them, or how they should be doing them. They don't speak to me, they don't behave, whatever it is. But the kind of thoughts and feelings, and often negative thoughts, can be very weighty, and very easy to get crushed underneath them. And what gets crushed, of course, is our enthusiasm, our sense of hope and purpose and well-being. That's what gets crushed. Our sense of dignity for the self. And so it gets stuck underneath. And there's nothing worse than getting stuck somehow, because it's like it's there, but you can't move. And yes, and unfinished things, right, can be a weight. Absolutely. That sense of loose ends, yeah. Where you don't have closure for something. And that's why sometimes I find, the other day someone was saying, about saying hello or goodbye to people, even the family, and and I was thinking how important that is for me to say hello and goodbye, and why it's so weighty when someone who is important to me doesn't say goodbye or hello. And I realized that especially the saying goodbye is like, it's kind of a closure of that moment. And of course, I realized that I was quite attached to that gesture, and so therefore expecting someone, and when they didn't do it, feeling bad about it, or having many waste thoughts, and so that brings heaviness. And so we need to be careful with with things, especially things that are important to us. And so yes, this thing of unfinished things in whatever form it takes, whether it's tasks that haven't been done, and so lists are for those for whom it works. I find that lists are wonderful because they really literally take the weight off my mind. How things weigh much more in the mind rather than on paper. And so yes, that's a big thing. And I remember at one point, in one of my many different jobs at FAO, it was one of the jobs was following up with people. I was in one of the director's office in some department many years ago, and one of my tasks was to kind of felt like being a debt collector, that you had to follow up. They had received all these tasks and deadlines, and I had to follow up with them saying, where's my output? Where's your output? And I remember there was one thing that was kind of at the bottom of my tray, and I just didn't know how to do it, and I didn't want to do it, and I kept kind of putting it off, but it was still kind of stuck in my mind. And I remember feeling just how that thing was just kind of growing in weight more and more, until finally I spoke to my colleague about it, and we managed to sort it out. But it was really an interesting thing connected with this thing of unfinished things. And so it's very useful to check what do you feel is unfinished? What do you need to talk about? Maybe just to yourself, or maybe to a friend, someone you can trust. And it doesn't mean that it might get sorted out, but somehow it's in that direction at least. And so some of the things that have helped me to come out of the opposite of lightness and move towards living with lightness. One is to take the courage to see the shadow, to look at the darkness. And I remember when I first felt the strength of anger, my anger, and I remember it was shocking to me, and for a while I tried to deny it and say, no, I have to overcome this and I have to do something about it, but it's so big, and and you might be surprised with that, but occasionally it'll come out just for me in an overt way. And the force of it is very powerful. But when I gave myself permission to look at it, to check it out, to in some way explore it, even, funnily enough, I felt like, okay, well, this is something that is like, you can call it a dangerous entity inside, but I'm getting to know the extent of damage that it could do. And so therefore, I'm not as afraid of it. I'm able to see that I have power over it. And so and so therefore, and the same thing with fears, or things that are somehow hidden away in the corners of my consciousness that I never wanted to look at. And so somehow being able to see my darkness has helped me to measure it, in a sense, to kind of put a boundary over it and realize the extent of it. And of course there's always more to discover, and I can't say that yes, I've now seen it all, but I've seen enough to be able to feel that, okay, it's there and I can respect it without fearing it, as much as I did before. And so just somehow taking that courage to look, to have a good look at this shadow, at the darkness, which includes fear and, all sorts of things. And then another thing is to actually, especially in interactions with people, because I find anyways that heaviness can often come when the quality of interactions is somehow we're not connecting. The person who I'm interacting with, maybe I'm not connecting with them, or in some way the exchange is based on something that, a task that's not done or should have been done in a different way. And basically it's being taken personally, either, being given personally or being taken personally. And so I find that actually looking to see the truth about what's actually going on helps me to lighten up about it. So lighten up in this sense means, first of all, to not take it personally. That's the first thing. That if someone is upset or someone is angry or someone is throwing a tantrum about something, let me check first before coming to a tragic conclusion about myself or about the other person. Let me check, what's the truth here? what have my choices been, and what's my intention even. And sometimes people put pressure only because they themselves are stressed, not because something is really urgent. No, I'm sure you've probably all experienced that, either at the giving end or the receiving end, and probably both. Is that, we want something to happen, and because we're anxious that it should happen, but actually it could also happen in a couple of hours. It doesn't have to happen this minute. But because we indicate to the other person our energy of anxiety, so the pressure gets transferred. And so if I'm at the receiving end of that, then I can check what's the truth here. And so I need to look to see the truth, not assume and take things at face value. This is something that has been very useful personally for me, because if you're someone who has been naive or too trusting of things and taking things at a superficial level, then very often it's easy to be deceived by things that happen and by people who manipulate or want something from you. And so then, of course, that leads to that sense of being deceived, and that's pretty heavy. So it's looking to see the truth, checking it out. It doesn't mean mistrust. And in fact, in these cases, it's not even a question about trust. It's a question of checking the truth. And then the third thing that, the last thing for now, what has helped me is this thing of continually letting go. So whenever something happens, or something doesn't happen, to clean up my feelings, to shake it off. There's actually a very nice song, I think a recent song called "Shake It Off," and it's really just anything that you find yourself, dumped with some sort of a projection of someone, or you find you're in some way being used, or whatever it is, you find that you put yourself in the position of a victim, that you succumbed to something again, that you allowed yourself to be put in a certain position, whatever it is. But just to shake it off, Yes, you sing that often, very nice, in fact. Yes. And yes, macro expectations can carry a heavy energy, both for ourselves and for others. And letting go is a form of respect towards ourselves and others. It really is. It offers that freedom, I think. And when we say everyone is free and has a right to be free, I think this is included in that. In terms of expectations, being free from expectations, because it's it's like a chain that we put on ourselves and on each other, and also to shake off the vibe of feeling heavy, or feeling somehow a mistake, and in some way to stabilize myself in who I really am, And so these are just a few things that I find helpful as an ongoing process, to learn how to really live with lightness. And I'm sure each one of you has your own ways and own helpful understandings and insights, that actually bring about help the light shine in, and lift the clouds and disperse the fog and actually bring clarity, because lightness is also about clarity, where I can see in the distance, and so to be able to have that inner world where really we're able to see clearly what's going on for me, and I think that helps a lot. And so that's coming to the first thing, to be able to see whether I'm seeing the darkness, the shadow, or I'm even seeing the beauty. Because sometimes, as I think they apply this quote to Nelson Mandela, I'm not sure who it actually was, where we're most afraid of our beauty and our power, our strength. That is actually what frightens us the most. And so it's interesting to be able to acknowledge that for the self, and this is basically acknowledging our true identity, to say to yourself that actually I am a peaceful, loving being. That is who I am. That is who I consider myself to be. And if I'm not able to be that 24 hours a day, doesn't mean that I'm not that. If I'm able to be that naturally and easily, even for a moment, this is giving me an indication that that's who I am. Yes. Yes, so the text of Mandela was written by Marianne Williamson. Okay, that's interesting. Thank you, Atus. So yes. So that was what I wanted to share for the moment. And in case you'd like to continue to share your thoughts, please do. And I wanted to read to you a piece from a little book called Inner Beauty, and it's by Anthea Church. And it's a very beautiful and quite unique way of looking at lightness, and so it's like an invitation for us to experience this. So as you're listening, see if you can get into the experience of it, because just like we did in the beginning, just one thought, one image, and immediately we're drawn into that into almost like the buzz of lightness somehow, or the hum of lightness, whatever you like to call it. Okay, so here, lightness is like hitting a spring of water inside. It is a sudden breakout from the dryness of your normal reactions as you begin to express from within, rather than just responding to what you see outside. It usually happens when you come upon a quality which hasn't been destroyed or jaded by time. Something very old and inherent in you that has survived birth after birth. Most qualities and talents are developed through use, but are also in some way diluted and changed. Lightness is touching that which makes you unique, because it has never changed. So sometimes you know that you have a certain speciality. You have a certain quality. And some of them can be pretty obvious to us and also to other people. But there's other ones, I think, that you kind of know are there. But it's almost like we're afraid to admit them. We're afraid to look at them. And I think that this is what Anthea, the author, is talking about. You know, that it's those qualities that are somehow you haven't received them from anywhere. They are part of who you are. They are part of what makes you unique. And very often other people will see them, but somehow maybe you can't see them, or you don't even like that quality because your idea of that quality is a bit diluted and a bit mixed. And so, for example, let's say the quality of sweetness. Sometimes people say, yes, you have the quality of sweetness. And for a long time, I never liked that quality. Somehow I just felt like, it's too sickly and too, I don't know, weak and soft and so on. Until I really began to see, well, actually, it's a very beautiful quality, and I like sweetness. And the opposite of sweetness is bitterness and sorrow. And so, what would I choose? What would I rather have? And of course, sweetness has to be balanced, because any virtue that goes out of balance becomes a weak. And so, it's just a question of balancing out certain virtues rather than throwing them out. And so yes, so lightness is touching what makes you unique because it has never changed. What happens then? So once you find that, laughter bursts out in your life. It may be that you've touched gentleness, eternal, unchanging gentleness, for example. But the spring seems always to come out in laughter. The laughter's charm and joy protect the gentleness which you have found, because someone who is laughing touches everyone but cannot be touched. As the laughter strengthens, two things happen. Firstly, comes the tendency to touch the value in others, because innocence reaches the part in people which society teaches them to hide. So that when there is innocence, you think of a child, even the most, the strongest adult will become soft and gentle in front of a little child. And so, whereas normally maybe a big, strong man will try to hide that softness and sweetness, but in front of innocence, it comes out. And so, firstly comes the tendency to touch the value in others, because innocence reaches the part in people which society teaches them to hide. And so, yes, laughter creates instant lightness, and especially when it's that innocent, spontaneous laughter. And secondly, the quality inside grows. The spring becomes a river and starts to flow through life in a more open, forceful way. So from the deep, private discovery, it becomes part of our living. It is not only a part of your living, but it also becomes a living resource for others. You can just sit beside a river, and without doing anything, you get in touch with how you really are and where you are going. So it's like the lightness offers us a clear space, where we can really see, we can spread out, where we can somehow see everything from the right perspective. So anyway, that's some thoughts about that. And so maybe we can have a meditation. And if anyone wants to share something, then if you'd like to share that now, then please feel free to unmute yourself and share, maybe what is it that helps you to live with lightness, and to come out of that, sometimes that condition, which could be low level condition, or it could be high intensity condition. Okay, so we'll have the meditation now. Okay, so find a comfortable position. And a very important thing for lightness is to be relaxed, because whenever there's tension or tightness, then it's very difficult to be light. So just make sure that your body is relaxed. Consciously give yourself permission for the muscles to become soft. And just let the body hang off you. And so you are the light, and the body is attached to that light. Just like a star. And so even the body becomes very light. Just imagine feeling your body to be like a feather. Soft and light. So you can hardly even feel it. You know that it is relaxed and comfortable. And so I focus my attention inside to see the condition of my mind, my inner world. And I also give my mind permission to relax. I can open the windows, let in the fresh air, let in the sunshine. And let go of any stale air, feelings, impressions, shoulds and shouldn'ts. I can let go of the tight morality, even the sense of justice. I can let go of all of that and just allow the fresh air to flow through my mind. The sense of freedom, not holding on to anything. And nothing is holding on to me. And as I feel myself even rising beyond the scenes and circumstances, moving into another dimension where time and space have no limits. Where I am free. I am who I am. I am light. And I enjoy this moment, flying beyond the limits of matter, of the past, beyond the limits, the mountains of roles and responsibilities. And as I fly beyond, I see them for what they are. I see the truth about myself and about those scenes. And I know that all will be well and will work out for the best. I see myself as a being of light, radiating the energy of love, so much love, overflowing. As I connect with the source, with the supreme ocean of love. It is as if I am connected with each and every being. Whose nature is anyway love. And where there is love, there is lightness. Because there is fulfillment. For a moment, I enjoy this connection. And I take a deep breath. And I feel again my mind. And I gauge how it is, how it feels. Is it a bit lighter? A lot lighter? Or was it light anyway? And I feel my body. Is it still relaxed, comfortable? And very gently, I let my attention become present in my physical surroundings. Thank you. So we have a few minutes in case anyone would like to share some comments or experiences about light and lightness. Most welcome. And so light equals love, yes, absolutely. Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Enjoyed very much the inquiry that we did at the beginning. So to see what it means for everyone. And what came up for me with that inquiry is, of course, that there are two definitions of light. Light as brightness, but light as weightlessness. And the different metaphors has been useful. But then alongside that, the self-reflection of what is it that makes us heavy or dark, and in a way the return journey from there to how can we step into the light again. Found it very useful. And another thing which I found very useful was the suggestion that was given to experience the virtue, in this case the lightness, while listening to a spiritual text. I think these are some methods that anyways I have learned in my contact with the Brahma Kumaris that has been very useful for me, and I'm sure some others will take benefit from as well. So thank you for the reminders.
Thank you, Aldous. Thank you. Thank you, and yes.
Thank you, Radha. Thanks a lot. I appreciate a lot this subject, lightness. It's really very, very important. Something came to my mind. Shine bright like a diamond. A diamond is a good image. Coming back to the beginning.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Yes, that the diamond allows the light to pass through as it is.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. Without distorting.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Yes, and love brings light and lightness. Thank you, Irina. Yes. And
I think rather during this time of COVID, what brings me light is the love of people and and gratitude. So every day I wake up and I'm grateful for something, you know, and that really helps. And every Sunday I collect the gratitude and put it into a post for myself. So I think we tend to forget how blessed we are
yes.
in this time. So it's very important to always look at the things that you are grateful for and the things that keep you going. So, you know, during COVID, which has been a heavy period for a lot of people, with a lot of uncertainty, which is also part of the heaviness, a lot of fear, which is part of heaviness, being able to say one is thankful is very important.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Watsi. That's absolutely true. And that keeps us far away from that condition of complaints, which is pretty heavy. So great, beautiful to be grateful. The energy of gratitude is love, actually. Yes. So thank you. Yes, and also lightness brings freedom. This is the unique saying. So yeah. Great. Anyone else like to share anything? So then maybe we close here, and I wish you a wonderful afternoon filled with light and lightness and opportunities to practice. So every moment is an opportunity to practice. So
Thank you, Radha.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Radha. Very special.